Before we get into the search.php template, which will control search results for a WordPress site, I want to start off with a overarching high-level message about whether you should have search on a site or not. Now, the idea of search being helpful is when you have so much content that a normal navigation will not get you through it. If you have a brochure site, something with 5 pages on it, a search bar does not belong there because they can see and they should be able to easily get to whatever it is that they're looking for or browse around. If you have a blog with a lot of content where someone might not easily be able to find what it is they're looking for, then search makes a lot of sense. So all this is to say, don't put a search bar or worry about search on your site until you really have enough content and a need from a user experience level for someone to be able to search and find this stuff. And along that note, you have to think, do you have enough content that if they slightly type the wrong thing, they're still going to get something related? Because if you add search and people are searching for something too obscure and you don't have enough content, or maybe they search for a different type of word that you don't have, it may come up with nothing, even though you do have really what they're looking for. So, like I said, a high-level thing about search. Now let's jump in and talk about some of the use cases around it and things you have to think about. All right, so on our 404 page where we left off in the last lesson, I showed you how to throw in a search bar into a template. So let's go ahead and throw in a search for our sample page by just typing sample. And notice that by default, it goes to a query string of $s equal to, and then whatever the word is. So if I were to change this to sampled, it would then show, hey, there's no content here because nothing matches that. But if I do sampled, notice what's happening. It looks like I have my sample page, but really this is pulling in index.php, and I can't click to this page, and I'm not actually on the URL for this page. So if I come back and try another term, let's do page. Notice that this is going to give us a bunch of search results, but because it's still using index.php, which is not set up to have links in the title by default, it is going to display what is basically a bunch of static pages. Now, the other thing too is that we may get searches that have pages and post results, or pages, posts, and custom products, and all of these other things. So we need to create a flexible template scenario here. But let's start off by just shifting out of the index.php to serve those results and into a search.php template. So what I'm going to do once again is pull up page.php and save this as search.php. And now we could get into addressing this situation here. I'm sorry, let me change this. Search.php. Okay, now we can address this situation here where no matter what type of content we're querying for, we're going to return page results back. So that's kind of an issue. And one way around this is we can create a custom template that is, or template part that is dealing just with search results. So let's start off there. We're going to come back to this search.php and add some more, but let's come into just our content page, and post class we may or may not be getting. So let's just hard code for CSS purposes. This is not necessarily going to be our post type. Just say post, and then because we want to link to what it is that we're doing, then we do want to not use an H1. Obviously, we want to have an H2 that we could link to whatever it is off of this page. So let's just set this up. So what I'm going to do is put in an H2 here, and I'm also going to save this and make sure that it's saved as content dash search and not as dot page. So we do have the correct template thing loading in here. And then we'll put in an href, and we could put out the permalink, which is going to be the permalink escaped and all ready for us. And then what do we want it to say? Well, one thing that I want to add in here is the type of content that it is. So I want them to know whether this is a post or a page or a custom post type or something like that. So what I'm going to do here is echo out the get post type. And we have to pass in the post so that it knows what post type to get. And then we'll put a colon there, and then we could put out the title. Cool. So it's going to say poster page and then whatever that poster page is. And then we probably don't want the whole content here. Let's use the excerpt if that exists. And this is pretty good. Now we could do some things here to customize it even further. You might want to put get post type or echo that out instead of class post here. I'm leaving it post just for generic CSS reasons, but one thing you might want to do when you're working with displaying different types of search results is style them differently. So if each article tag here was saying what type of content it was, then you could style each of those differently so they can know at a glance, hey, I'm about to link to a page, or I'm linking to a blog post, or I'm linking to a product or something like that. That could be really helpful. But let's just go ahead and see what changes we've done so far, how they look on the front end of the site. Again, adding in our content search template part and creating our main search.php. So now again, I'm looking for search, and if I refresh that, notice that now it's going to say this is a page, and you're going to go directly to that page, click in, and there we go. And if we come back to our 404 page, so if we do any page that doesn't exist, and we try, let's say, searching for something that we know is going to be a blog post. Let's see, yeah, let's search for the word hello. Notice that this is going to give us post. Okay, we do want this to be capitalized, so you could easily do that with CSS. So if we come into our style.css and we come down to our H2s for our, we should have that H2 search title. Did I leave that off? Okay, yeah, I just need to add a class, call this search title. Okay, and now when I come back over, it's post hello world. So that works for me. I think that that's a pretty good, base to go off of. It gives you an excerpt. It tells you what kind of content it is. Maybe you want to style it differently. There's a lot of places you could go from here. So guess what you should do now? You should follow along, coding out, creating a search template, creating probably a new template part to handle how this is dynamically done. And then there are a bunch of different ways you could approach this. And as you learn more about template tags and conditionals and stuff in later sections, the doors will open a little bit more on how you could approach this in different ways. But for right now, just think about, for your own project that you're building, what makes most sense for search? How should search results look? And then you could use some conditional tags or CSS to display things exactly how they should look to make it clear to the user what they're searching for. One last thing I forgot. We don't have the search title query string of what they're looking for. That is super helpful and super important. And until we get into template tags, you won't really know how to do that. So let me just show you the code for that real quick, because that could be really helpful. So coming back into our search.php file, we have our loop here, and that's pulling in the template parts that we need. But above that, let's hard code in a title. And so let's just say an H1, and we're going to just do a simple escaped string. So we'll do E. We'll talk about sanitization later and why we do all of this, but try to implement some good practices for now. Search for, and then that's going to be WP hierarchy. And so that will display a title of, hey, we're searching for WP hierarchy. Or I'm sorry, we're searching for the query string, which we will put next, but we could update it using WP hierarchy. What's the error there? Okay, sorry. Should be a comma there. 2 values. Okay. So now that we've done that, one of the template tags that you just probably wouldn't know about until you really spend some time searching through all of them, and we will look at all these in depth later in this course. But for now, get search query is going to give you whatever term it is that you're looking for. And I'm just going to wrap that in some quotation marks there like that. So let's just take a look at what this is doing on our site now. Very cool. It's saying searching for hello. And if we were to change this by searching for some other word or something like that, it will automatically display it here. Okay, now you've really got a lot to work with. These should be the basic foundations for building out a search page. And again, keep in mind whether a search page even makes sense for your site. For something really small, really static, it probably doesn't, and probably isn't a good idea. For a really big blog or something with tons of content, where users have a likelihood of finding their stuff based on common search terms, then go ahead and add one.